Hey there nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and we are back with another episode of Commander Cheapskate Gamer Reviews. And this is the series where we review various products related to the wargaming hobby. And on today's episode, we will be taking a look at the 9th edition of Warhammer Fantasy Battle. This time we're looking at the Ogre Kingdom's Army booklet, as you can see right here. Now this document actually comes from the Warhammer Armies project website. It's a blogger website that is ran by Mathias Eliasson, and what he has done is he actually has made a series of unofficial rules for Warhammer Fantasy 9th edition. And not only did he do that, but he also made army books for every single faction within that universe. So this is an unofficial document, but because it's unofficial, it also means that it's also free to download from his website in PDF format. So as you can see here, here's the cover for that army book. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to do an in-depth review of the entirety of the Ogre Kingdom's army book. So this video will be a little bit longer in length. Things we'll be talking about are, for example, are the army and unit rules. We'll also look at special characters, magic and magic items, as well as the army lists. And like I said before, because this video is a little bit deeper in depth, what we're going to do is we're going to actually put timestamps down in the description box below, so that way you guys can click on it and go to the various section that pertains to you. So with that being said, let's get this video review on a roll. Alright, so let's go and talk about this video review real quick. So first of all, let's go to the table of contents. As you can see, the artwork in this book is absolutely fantastic. Same thing with the graphic design that Mathias Eliasson has done with his desktop publishing, so it's absolutely fantastic. So let's go ahead and zoom in real quick. So the contents you can see here there's a lot of lore here. So if you're interested in the lore, you could actually download it yourself and take a look at the lore, but we'll be focusing primarily on the army rules as well as the unit rules for all the different units. We'll also take a look at the army list as well as the magic items, and of course the army list and our overall review of the product. So the first thing we'll do real quick is take a look at the army rules real fast. So let's go ahead and scroll here. So first of all, Ogre Charge. There has been a little bit of change with Ogre Charge. Before, whenever you rolled for an Ogre Charge, if you rolled 10 or higher for your charge, you actually got D3 impact hits. They've actually taken that rule away. So now all you have now is just one impact hit, and that is standard. And whatever rank bonuses you have, of course, applies to the strength bonuses of the impact hits from the models in the front rank. So because of that, the Ogre Charge ability has been nerfed a little bit, which is kind of sad to see, but you know, them's the breaks, I suppose. You know, people are going to complain about balance, I guess, so that's the reason why we have that. Bellower's special rule is still applies as always. They still count as musicians, and another addition has been made to Ogre weapons for their Iron Fists. Now their Iron Fist can either be used as an additional hand weapon or a buckler in the close combat phase, even if you're mounted, so it's up to you what you want to do with that part. So it's actually kind of nice. You can either additional armor save when you want to, or you can use it as additional attack if you want to attack against a target that way. At the same time, the chain trap at the same time is up here on the top. Still has its killing blow, still quick to fire, still pretty much the same stats there. Same thing with the harpoon launcher. It's got a 36-inch range, strength 5, move or fire with a D3 multiple wounds special rule. And of course, we have our Ogre pistol still. We have a range of 24 inches, and they also fire like normal pistols still. So not much has really changed there. Now then, we actually have some new upgrades as well for Nobblers now. We actually have the return of different Nobblers from previous editions of Warhammer Fantasy. So we have our Luck Nobbler, which an Ogre with a Luck Nobbler may reroll a single armor reward save once per battle. You have a Sword Nobbler, and an Ogre with a Stone Nobbler benefits from 1 extra strength 2 attack per close combat round at the weapon skill of the owning model. We also have the Tooth Nobbler, 1 use only. After attempting to cast a spell from the Lord of the Great Maw, a butcher with a Tooth Nobbler may choose to sacrifice 1 to get +1 to his casting value. We have Lookout Nobblers. Any character or champion in a unit with a Lookout Nobbler benefits from the Lookout Sir special rule as long as there are 3 ranks and file models of the same troop type remaining in the unit. We have Name Nobblers, and it says for each name Nobbler the Ogre has, he can choose an additional big name up to 15 points. So big names are still a part of this, and actually the point values for the big names have been reduced quite a bit. And then we have Scalp Nobblers. 1 use only. A butcher with a Scalp Nobbler may reroll a single dice when attempting to cast a spell from the Lord of the Great Maw. So because of that, we still have those abilities as well. So let's go ahead and talk about our stats real quick. So first of all, we still have our Tyrants. They still have the Ogre Charge rule. They do automatically cause fear automatically and have Swift Stride because of their monstrous infantry unit type. So that part's taken care of. Same thing with our Bruisers. We still have those guys as well. Still monstrous infantry. Stats have relatively remained the same for those guys as well. Now for our Butchers. We've actually had a little bit of a change going on with the Butchers. So first of all, butchers are wizards that can use spells from the Lord of the Great Maw, the Lord of Heavens, the Lord of Beasts, and the Lord of Death. However, if you want to field any butchers or slaughtermasters in your army, at least one of them must use a spell from the Great Maw, so that rule still applies to them. So we also have immunity as well against poison attacks still, so that part's still there. But now we have a new upgrade called a Butcher's Cauldron, which is brand new to this edition. It says, if your Slaughtermaster is using spells from the Lord of the Great Maw, he may take a Butcher's Cauldron. A Butcher's Cauldron uses the following profile. It's got a toughness of 6. And it's also considered a war machine. A Slaughtermaster with a Cauldron gains the Stubborn special rule and will count as part of the crew and may never leave the unit. Now, the Blessings of the Great Maw. A Slaughtermaster with a Cauldron receives a ward save of 4 up and a +1 to cast spells. In addition, you may add 6 inches to the range of any spells he attempts to cast. And then, of course, we have this Hunger of the Great Maw bound spell. It's a level 5 pound spell. It says the Hunger of the Great Maw is an augment spell with a range of 24 inches. Until the caster's next magic phase, the target unit may reroll fail to hit as they desperately try to kill and subsequently gorge on the enemy. If the unit does not win a round of combat until then, each new model in the unit must pass a toughness test or suffer 1 wound with no armor saves allowed, as even the Ogre's imposing constitution cannot withstand the Great Maw's appetite for too long. So this is actually kind of like a nice little bonus for Ogre Kingdoms, because Ogre Kingdoms have notoriously high strength and high toughness, but they have pretty low weapon skills. So they may be big and strong, but when it comes to the skills though, they just simply lack that. So it's kind of a little buff for those guys, desperately needing for that. Then we have Fire Bellies, and Fire Bellies have remained the same as they usually have. But they've also been kind of reduced a little bit. For example, their Fire Breath has been dropped down to a Strength 3 breath attack now instead of a Strength 4 breath attack. So they got nerfed a little bit because of, you know, balance, I guess. So moving on, we have our Hunters now. Hunters have remained relatively the same, except for the Loner rule has been changed a little bit. It says Hunters cannot join any unit except for Saber Tusk Packs, so that rule has changed the same, or Crag Beast, which is a new type of monster, and we'll talk about that here in a second. Other than that, though, they relatively remain unchanged for their units, so that part has pretty much stayed the same. So for our Saber Tusk packs, they relatively stay the same with their points and their stats and everything, so that hasn't changed too much. But now we have a new monstrous creature that these guys can take, called Crag Beasts. So let's go ahead and talk about those guys real quick. So Crag Beasts are movement 7, weapon skill 4, strength and toughness of 5, 3 wounds apiece, 3 initiative, 4 attacks, 4 leadership. They have a 5 up natural armor, and of course they still obey their master's voice ability if you decide to pair them up with Hunters. So that's another awesome monstrous beast choice that we have for those guys. So moving on, we have our Ogre Bulls. Those guys have relatively remained the same, so not much change has happened there. Same thing with our Iron Guts now. The only thing that's really changed real quick is this new rule called Down to the Iron Guts. It says if a friendly unit of Ogres within 6 inches breaks and flees from combat, this unit of Iron Guts may reroll 1s when rolling to hit and to wound in their next combat phase. So this is kind of nice if anybody should break for any reason. But it has to be a unit of Ogres though. So for example, you can't use Noblars to break and expect the same thing, because that's not really going to work out too well. So continuing on, we have our Lead Belchers. Lead Belchers are relatively the same as well. Their guns are exactly the same as well, with their ignore their minus hit modifiers for multiple shots. So that's still there as well. And of course our Man-Eaters. Now, unfortunately, Man-Eaters have been hit with a nerf bat in this edition, which is kind of sad. So let's go and talk about that real quick. So if you'll see, they still have their Motley Crew ability. They have the immunity psychology as well as stubborn, so that part's nice. But if you notice, their been there, done that rule has been taken away, so they can no longer be edited anymore. You can't use them as scouts anymore. You can't give them Swift Stride anymore or Strider. You can't give them Sniper or Poison attacks. So because of that, they've been severely nerfed in what they can basically do. So that part's kind of sad. Now, granted, they have the higher strength still, but other than that, though, they lost it, so it's kind of sad. Now, they do have equipment with what's called an Oriental Longsword, which is cool. It gives you armor piercing 1 and a parry save of 6 up, but I think most people would agree it's just better off if you can just, you know, take those been there, done that rules and bring it back again, but them's the breaks because of balance. Okay, so moving on, we got our Mornfang Cavalry. Those guys have remained the same for the most part. There's a little bit differences with their equipment, but we'll talk about that when we get to that section for the army lists. Now, We have a brand new unit that's available in this book now. This is originally from the Forge World line of miniatures. Grimhorn Rhinox Riders are now part of the group as well. So these are ogres that ride Rhinoxes, which is kind of interesting. So as you can see here, Rhinox Riders have the same stats as most ogres, but then the Rhinox itself, Strength 5, Toughness 5, 4 wounds. They're Frenzy as well and cause D3 impact hits. Have a natural armor save of 5 up as well, which is kind of nice. And as you can see, they also got their wound characteristics attached to them. So that is really cool to see that being able to be fielded in an Ogre Kingdom army. We also have a new unit called a Rhinox War Chariot. So if Iron Blasters and Scrap Launchers aren't just not cool enough for you anymore, you could actually mod, do some modding and some conversion work and actually create a War Chariot now. So the War Chariot has Strength 5, Toughness 5, 5 wounds. It comes with an Ogre Rider as well as a Rhinox that you can use as well. It causes fear as well, has natural armor save of 5 up for the Rhinox, and a Chariot armor save of 6 up. So that's still there. Same thing with Iron Blasters, we still have those still. They relatively stay the same for the most part, so no change really there, so that part is excellent. Yeah, that pretty much done for that one. And of course we have Gorgers. Gorgers are back as well. Not much has changed for these guys. They're still unbreakable, still have Frenzy and Killing Blow and Ambushers. So, people's use for these things have always been dubious, but if you want to do a quick ambushing for like war machines and stuff, Gorgers are perfect for that job. Then we have Yetis. Yetis are actually kind of viable now. We'll talk about that a little bit here in a second. So first of all, their stats relatively remain the same from previous editions of Warhammer, so that hasn't changed too much, and they're still flammable. But now they have some additional abilities. We have Aura of Frost, so Yetis have the ice attacks and magical attack special rules, so that part is cool. And they have this new scale terrain ability, which means that Yetis treat all undefended obstacles, cliffs, rocks, boulders, scree, and woods as clear ground, so they're not impacted by terrain anymore, and they also have ice attacks as well as magical attacks too, so that part is really cool. So they made these guys just a little bit more viable now to have inside of an Ogre Kingdom army. And then we have a new character called a Yeti Rhyme Speaker, which is a brand new unit to this edition. So as you can see here, he's got movement 7, weapon skill 3, 5 strength, 4 toughness and wounds, and initiative and attacks, and 7 leadership. Monstrous Beast, he's got the Aura of Frost, Flammable, and Scale Terrain special rules, just like his normal Yetis do. But now we have this Ice Breath ability. Rhyme Speakers have a Strength 3 breath weapon with magical attack special rule. No regeneration saves are allowed against any wounds suffered from this attack. So now we have a new breath weapon attack as well. And we have the Rhyme Speaker's Call. Rhyme Speakers can channel power and dispel dice in the same manner as level 1 wizards. In addition, Rhyme Speakers know the 3 spells listed below, and they are innate bound spells at power level 5. So we have Ice Spear is a magic missile with a range of 12 inches and cause a single strength 5 hit with the ice attacks and multiple wounds D3 special rule. No regeneration saves are allowed against any wounds suffered from the Ice Spear. We have Ice Spikes, which is a hex spell. Place the small round template anywhere within 12 inches of the caster. The area covered by the small template becomes dangerous terrain until the start of the caster's next magic phase. This does not affect Yetis or Thunder Tusks, so you can do some really cool terrain controlling of the battlefield, which is kind of neat. And then we have Snowstorm. It's an augment spell that is cast upon the caster himself and affects all units within 6 inches. Any shooting targeted at units within the Snowstorm suffer -1 to hit with their missile attacks. So like I said, this is actually kind of nice because now you can actually see Yetis and these new Yeti Rhyme Speakers actually being part of Ogre Kingdom armies, which is actually pretty cool, all things considering. Now we have Stonehorns. Stonehorns have been nerfed a little bit. Their Earth-Shattering Charge now just only gives them, you roll 2d6 now for their impact hits, and you pick the highest results, so they have been nerfed in that sense as well. They still maintain their Stone Skeleton rule, so there's that. They have a natural armor save of 4 up, as well as Frenzy, but they've been nerfed because of balance, so that's happened. We have Thunder Tusks now, so Thunder Tusks have remained exactly the same still, so not much change has happened there, so that's pretty cool. And now we have a brand new unit called Ice Mammoths. So now we have a brand new monster that we can actually field in Ogre Kingdom armies. So let's go ahead and talk about that real quick. So the Ice Mammoth has a movement of 8, 3 weapon skills, 7 strength, 6 toughness, 10 wounds, initiative 1. But they have special attacks now. We're going to talk about that real quick here. They also got leadership 5. They also got an Ogre Beast Rider that rides on top of it. Causes D6 +1 impact hits, 4 up armor saves. They have the Smooth Ride ability. And as for the Mammoth attacks, Ice Mammoths are huge beasts who rely on their near unstoppable mass and tree trunk-sized tusks to gouge and crush their foes. When the Ice Mammoth attacks, roll on the appropriate chart to determine its action. So it's very much like a giant in terms of its attacks. We have Trample, Stomp, Bellow, and Pickup, and rules for man-sized things. And then for the big things chart, these are things for like monsters, monstrous beasts, monstrous infantry, monstrous cavalry, chariots, war machines, and shrines. There's the Butt, Gore, and Bellow attack. So let's go and talk about those real quick. So for Trample, the mammoth tramples and crushes the enemy, splattering its victims like overripe fruit beneath its feet. A single enemy unit in base contact suffers D3, strength 7 hits for each rank of 5 or more models it has. So this would be really nice against huge units. It's also got a stomp attack, makes 3 stomp attacks this turn. Bellow, the mammoth trumpets and roars with a deafening force. Neither the mammoth nor any unit in contact with it fight, as they have already done so this turn. The mammoth automatically wins the combat by 3 points or more. The result has no effects against animated constructs. So very cool there. And then of course we have Butt. The mammoth charges, ramming its victim with its massive head. The mammoth inflicts 1 automatic hit against the model in base contact, causing D3 strength 7 hits with multiple wounds D3. We have Gore. The mammoth gouges at the enemy with its massive tusks. The mammoth makes D6 attacks against a chosen unit in close combat with a heroic killing blow special rule, so very dangerous there. And then we have, of course, the Pickup, and we roll D6, throwback in combat, suffers D3 strength D6 hits, which ignores armor saves, and D6 strength 3 hits are inflicted on the unit. We have Hurl, and it says you can hurl an enemy unit within 12 inches, of course. Takes D6 strength 3 hits. Unsaved wounds from these hits count towards the mammoth's combat result. If no units are in range, treat this as a throwback into the combat result instead. We have Eat, which basically gets killed, and then we have Squish, and we have another. Mammoth trunk constricts around the target, crushing their bones into splinters. The model is removed as a casualty, and the mammoth picks up another victim. Roll again on this table to see what happens. So as you can see, we have now like almost like a secondary giant character with these elephants being brought in. So with our Nobblers, let's go and talk about those guys now. So we have Beneath Contempt, so they have the expendable rule. And we also have this new Bicker rule now. It says, roll a d6 at the beginning of each turn for each unit of Nobbler fighters that are not in combat, fleeing, or subject to any compulsory movement. If a unit rolls a 1, it may do nothing this turn. So Animosity is kind of like infiltrated into the Nobblers now, so now they have to worry about that rule now. And then, of course, we have Nobbler Scrap Launchers. Those have remained relatively the same, so not much change has happened there. But we have a brand new Nobbler unit now called the Nobbler Skewer Slinger. It's basically like a skull cat. It's like almost like a catapult, except it's a bolt thrower though. So it's a chariot-mounted bolt thrower. It has a 48-inch range. It causes 6 strength. It's also got D3 multiple shots and causes D3 wounds. And it says the Skewer Slinger can fire even if the model moves. And it says Slipshot. If the to-hit roll for a shooting attack made by a Skewer Slinger is a 1 before any modifiers are applied, then it misfires. Roll on the Scrap Launcher misfire table and apply the result to the Skewer Slinger. So in case Scrap Launchers wasn't cool enough for you, you now have a mobile, multiple firing bolt thrower, which is actually kind of cool instead, so very nice. And now we have Nobbler Trappers. They're back to being their own unit again. They have Beneath Contempt and Bicker and Scouts and Skirmisher rules, and they have the Trapper's special ability. Each enemy unit that successfully charges a Nobbler Trapper's front must take D3 ranged terrain tests for each Trapper as soon as this charge is completed to represent the various traps set in front of the unit. So we do have these Nobbler Trappers. They are back to being their own individual units now, which is actually kind of neat. So now we also have Slave Giants. Slave Giants have remained exactly the same as they had before in previous editions, so not much change has happened there. And with that, that takes us directly to the special characters, and we'll talk about those guys next. So for this next section, we'll be talking about the special characters for the Ogre Kingdoms rulebook. So first of all, we have Grecius Goldtooth. He makes a comeback on this one as well. From what I've seen so far, he pretty much stays the same on this one, except for the Gold Troop tribe on this one. It looks like on this one, he must have at least 2 units of Iron Guts to be fielded in an army led by him, and those units can take up to magic standards worth up to 50 points. So that rule has been adjusted a little bit for him, so that's where we see a little bit of adjustment for that character. We have Scrag the Slaughterer, the Prophet of the Great Maw. He's remained relatively the same as well for the most part, so we're not going to spend too much time on him, and we're going to move on. Now we have a new character named Garrick Ironskin, Tyrant of the Ironskin tribe. I believe this guy was a special character from... I think it's the very first edition these guys came out actually as a special character. So let's go and talk about him real quick. So weapon skill 6, 3 ballistic skill, 5 strength and toughness wounds, 4 initiative, 5 attacks, 9 leadership. He's also mounted on an Iron Rhinox as well with those stats attached to him as well. He's also got the Iron Rhinox has natural armor 4 up, a frenzy and impact hits of D3 plus 1, and also strength 2 breath weapon with armor piercing 2 special rule. And then we have the Iron Skin tribe. If Gark is the army's general, Lead Belchers count as core choice, and Grimhorn Rhinox Riders count as special choices. So now we have that. And then we have the Iron Skin armor. It's heavy armor, gives him a 4 up armor save. And the Iron Skin armor gives Gark a ward save of 6 up. So we do have that character making a comeback again. Then we have Groth One Finger, first prophet of the Great Maw. He's a new addition to this army as well. Same stats as your Slaughtermaster would have: 4 weapon skill, 4 strength, 5 toughness, 5 wounds, 4 attacks, leadership 8. Level 4 wizard from the Lord of the Great Maw. He's got immunity to poison attacks. He's got the Lore Master, so he knows all the spells for the Great Maw. He's got the Maw Seeker big names. He got +1 to his toughness, and he also suffers from stupidity, and he causes terror. We have the First Butcher. Once per turn, Groth may reroll a dice when casting a spell or when trying to dispel an enemy spell. We have the Lazars. Choose 1 unit of Ogre Bulls or Iron Guts in an army, including Groth. This unit causes terror instead of fear. We also have the Blood Cleaver. Every time Groth makes an unsaved wound with the Blood Cleaver, he may regain 1 wound he lost early in the battle. We have the Weird Stone Necklace, which gives him a 5 award save, and on a d6 starting his turn on a roll of 1, Groth suffers a wound with no armor saves allowed. Then we have the Skull Mantle. Any enemy unit forced to take any leadership tests due to Groth or a unit he has joined suffers a -1 penalty to their leadership. And then we have the Cannibal Totem. And it says that when the base contact with an enemy unit of Monstrous Infantry, all models in Groth's unit may reroll fail to hit and to wound in the first round of combat. They may never overrun and must always pursue if the ability is used. So there we have that guy with that character. Then we have Morg Magmaborn. He is a Firebelly special character. He's got weapon skill 4, strength 4, toughness of 5, 5 wounds, 3 initiative, 4 attacks, 8 leadership. Monsters Infantry, level 3 wizard from the Lore of the Fire. He's got Fire Breath, flaming attacks, immunity to flaming attacks, Ogre Charge rules. He has the Avatar of the Firemouth. When Morg suffers an unsaved wound in close combat, enemy models in base contact suffer a strength 4 hit with the flaming attack special rule. When Morg is slain, place the small template above him. All models underneath the template suffer a strength 4 hit with the flaming attacks rule. Then we have the Basalt Staff. Morg's close combat attacks have armor piercing 1 special rule. In addition, the staff contains a bound spell power level 3, which casts his Fireball spell from the Lore of Fire. So he can actually like double Hadouken you with 2 fireballs if he wants to, which is kind of cool. Then we have Goldfag Maneater. His rules has relatively stayed the same, so not much has changed there. He still has his easy come, easy go rule, as well as his Goldfag's Maneaters. But since Maneaters have been nerfed with their been there, done that rule, not much of a change there. So there's that. Bragg the Gutsman has stayed the same, so we're not going to talk about him too much. We have this new character, Bruch the Slave Lord. And he's got weapon skill 5, 3 ballistic skill, 5 strength, 5 toughness, 4 wounds, 3 initiative, 4 attacks, 8 leadership. He causes fear as well as Ogre Charge and Stubborn rules, and he has the Slave Lord rule, which means he starts off with 12 slaves. And basically the benefit of the Lookout Sir role, as long as there are at least 5 slaves in the unit, he may not voluntarily leave it, and all slaves have him and all slaves have a 5 regen rule. He's also got the Soulbinder chains, which are magic weapons, 2-hand weapons. At the beginning of each combat phase, Bra may nominate 1 enemy model in base contact. That model loses D3 attacks for that phase. And then we have the Great Bull Plate, medium armor. The Bull Plate gives Bra and his minions the Swift Stride special rule when charging. An interesting thing about this guy, he actually can purchase more slaves to make his unit even bigger if he wants to. And they have weapon skill 2, ballistic skill 2, strength and toughness of 3, 1 wound, 2 initiative, 1 attack, 3 leadership. So that makes up that character. And then we have Jared the Red, Longstrider. He's a hunter special character. He's got the Loner special rule, Ogre Charge, Longstrider, gives him +1 to his movement, as well as a Scout special rule. It says, running with the pack, if Jared deploys as part of a Saber-Tusk pack, then both he and the pack have the Vanguard special rule. In addition, the entire unit may reroll failed charge distances. He also has the Huntfather rule. Jared may reroll failed to hit and to wound rolls of 1 when fighting War Beasts, Monstrous Cavalry, and Monsters. In addition, he ignores terror caused by monsters. He has the Frost Shard Javelins, which are great throwing spears. Attacks made with these javelins have the Ice Attack special rule. He has the Great Skull Armor. It's light armor. Any spellcaster that targets Jared will miscast a roll of double 4 or double 5, as well as a roll of a double 6. And then we have, of course, the Great Back Pelt, and that gives him an Aura of Frost special rule. In addition, he ignores dangerous terrain. And that pretty much makes it the special character rules. So the special character rules over with. Next thing we're going to talk about are magic items. Alright, so now we're back with the magic abilities. So this time is the Lord of the Great Maw. It has basically stayed exactly the same for the most part. So we're not really going to spend a lot of time on this, just because it's pretty much the same. So no harm, no foul there. Not going to talk about that too much. Now, we are going to talk about the big names, though. Some of the big names have been changed a little bit in this edition, so let's go on and talk about that real quick. So we have the Death Cheater ability, which is worth 20 points. That means at the start of the end of the phase in which a character with a Death Cheater is down in their last wound, he receives a 3-up ward save. We have the Mountain Eater big name, which is worth 20 points. A Mountain Eater will never be wounded on a score better than 3+. Hits that cause automatic wounds are unaffected. We have the Kin Eater special rule, which is worth 20 points as well. Any friendly unit within 12 inches of a Kin Eater rolls 3d6 for their panic test and discards the highest dice rolled. We have the Giant Breaker big name, which is now 15 points now. A character with the Giant Breaker name has +1 strength on his profile. He may never refuse challenges, and neither he nor a unit he is with may choose to flee as a charge reaction. We have the Maw Seeker big name, which is worth 15 points, gives him +1 toughness and also stupidity special rules. We have the Beast Killer rule, which is 15 points. This is only for hunters. When making attacks against war beasts, monstrous beasts, or monsters, the Beast Killer gains +1 on his rolls to wound. If the character is using a magic weapon, then he does not get this bonus. We have the Demon Killer rule, which is 15 points. Tyrants only. The Tyrant causes terror. We have Brawler Guts, which is 10 points. Model on foot only. Brawler Guts gain the impact D3 impact hit rule. We have Wall Crusher for 10 points. Wall Crushers do 1 additional impact hit on a successful Ogre charge. In addition, Wall Crushers ignore all the effects of obstacles when attacking units that are defending them. He is likely to barge through or smash it down on top of the foe. This does not benefit a unit he joins. And then we have the Long Strider rule for 5 points, gives you +1 to your movement characteristics. And now we have our Tools of Destruction. For the Thunder Mace and Siege Breaker, they relatively stay the same. Same thing with the Got Maul as well as the Greedy Fist. However, we do now have this new armor called Mastodon Armor, which is 35 points. It's medium armor, giving you a 5-up armor save. It says, if the wearer is killed by an attack that is not made in close combat, roll a d6. On a 2+, he will remain in play with 1 wound remaining. So that's kind of like a nice little change there as well. Noveler Thiefstone as well as the Hellheart have remained the same. Same thing with Grud's Sickle. Same thing with the Dragonhide Banner as well as the Rumoth. So not much change has really happened for magic or magic items. So with that being said, let's go on and move on to the army list, and then we'll wrap up this review. Alright, so the very last thing we're going to talk about now is the army list for the Ogre Kingdom's army. So let's go and talk about that for a little bit. So there have been some major significant changes done with the army list entries. So first of all, for your lords, as you can see, they're still pretty expensive for what they can do. That much hasn't really changed. Garrick Ironskin is now worth 375 points. Groth One Finger's 460 points. Morg Magmaborn is 335. And of course for our Tyrants, there were 210 points, but here's the cool part about Tyrants now. So first of all, they may take Luck Nobblers and up to 2 Sword and Name Nobblers as well, but they can now take mounts, which is really, really cool. It's really awesome to see that. They can either ride Mournfang, which is really cool for 45 points. They can ride a Rhinox for 65 or a Rhinox War Chariot for 135 points, which is kind of cool. You know, it's always made you wonder, why can't a Tyrant ever ride a monster? I'm not sure why they can't ride Thunder Tusks or Stonehorns, but I guess that would be too much, I guess. But at least they can take mounts now, which is actually kind of cool. Then of course you have your Slaughter Masters that were 250 points as well. So we have the Butcher's Cauldron, which costs 50 points in order to equip that magical item. And then for heroes, we have Golfag Maneater, of course. He's worth 235 points. Bragg the Gutsman is worth 155. Brew the Slave Lord, he can take any number of slaves he wants and adds 2 points per model. Now here's the thing that I don't know about Bra, the Slave Lord. Do these points for these slaves count for his character costs, or does it count for core? That's the problem I'm not sure about on that one. I'm assuming it's for the hero, just because That's what you usually do in some cases, but you know, whatever. Then we have Jared the Red as well. He can also ride a Mornfang, a Rhinox. He could also ride a Stonehorn or a Thunder Tusk. So now this guy could actually ride these monsters, which is actually pretty cool there as well. Now for our heroes, our bruisers, of course, they can ride monsters as well. They can ride Mornfangs, Rhinox, or Rhinox War Chariots. They can also take a Lock Nobbler, a Name Nobbler, and up to 2 Sword Nobblers, so we do have those. They could also become Battle Standard Bearers for 25 points as well. So they can't carry any of the magic items, but they can carry the magical standard for them. And of course we have our butchers. They could take 2 Tooth Nobblers or up to 2 Scalp Nobblers as well, 5 points apiece, and 50 points worth of magic items. Level 2, 35 points for that. Now for our heroes, of course, our heroes for our hunter, they can still ride Stonehorns, and they can also ride Thunder Tusks now too, which is kind of nice too. And also, if they decide to use an animal, the monster though, they can't scout anymore. So there's that. We have our Fire Belly, which is worth 125 points, so these still there. And now we have our Yeti Rhyme Speakers now. These are the new Yeti creatures that we have now. They're worth 160 points. They can take additional hand weapons or great weapons, so very cool there. Now for our cool units, we have our Bulls, and of course you could take their Iron Fist. They automatically come with 2 hand weapons automatically now, and as well as light armor. And of course their Iron Fist can be used as an additional hand weapon or as a buckler in close combat, which is really nice as well. And then we have our Iron Guts. They stay the same. They're now equipped with medium armor, which is basically the new heavy armor. Gives you 5 up armor save. They can take up a magic standard up to 25 points though. So they can no longer take 50-point magic standard. So the days of taking this with the Dragonhide banner no longer available anymore. So they got nerfed that way because of balance. So that ended up happening. So we have Nobbler Fighters, of course. Nobbler Fighters are worth 2.5 points per model. And they can take additional hand weapons for half a point per model for that. Then we have Lead Belchers. Those guys are worth 40 points. Mornfang Cavalry can now take great weapons and Iron Fist as well. They automatically come with medium armor, so they automatically come with that as well. May take a magic set up to 25 points, and may take the Crusher may take abrasive Ogre Pistols. So we still have those points there. Then of course we have our Man-Eaters worth 42 points per miniature now, and they can of course be equipped differently. They can take a magic banner up to 50 points, medium armor for 3 points per miniature, but they lost their been there done that rule, so they've been heavily nerfed as well. Moving on to our special units, we have our Saber Tusk now. Now they actually have some new things on them now. They can take Ambushers, Scouts, or Killing Blow for their point values, so you can actually add those to that. Crag Beasts are now worth 46 points, so that's kind of cool there. And Yetis are worth 38 points, and of course they can have their champion being a Greyback worth 10. Gorgers are worth 50 still. For our special units, the Rhinox War Chariot is 130 points now. Nobbler Trappers, like I said before, have now been made into special units. They're worth 6 points a person now. We have our Nobbler Scrap Launcher and Skewer Slingers worth 135 points and 95 points, which is actually kind of interesting, like how this is only worth 95 points now. So actually you can take a bunch of these bad boys and, you know, do some shooting. Be kind of cool to do with that. Let's see what you can do with those. Now for our rare units, we have our Grimhorn Rhinox Riders. Those worth 75 points apiece. They can take magic standard up to 50 points. They can also make a unit upgrade with medium armor for 4 points. Great weapons and Iron Fist as well, so we can get those for that unit. Our Iron Blasters are worth 180 points, and since they're rare, you have to at least have 3,000 points if you want to take 2 of these things, which I call nonsense on, but balance, I guess, is the rule of the thumb here. Then we have our Slave Giants worth 175 points, and then of course we have our Stonehorns as well as our Thunder Tusks, 250 apiece, so those are still there. And then we have our Ice Mammoth, which is worth now 35 points, and you can take an additional Ogre Rider worth 15 points, and they may take a Chain Trap or a Harpoon Launcher, and that's absolutely free for them, so pretty cool. So as you can see, they actually have 2 Beast Riders already, and then they have a 3rd one, so that'd be kind of cool. It's like a little Lord of the Rings giant mammoth running thing, so that'd be kind of cool. And that pretty much makes up the army lists for this one. Alright you guys, so there you have it. This is the review for the 9th edition rules for Ogre Kingdoms, created by the Warhammer Armies project, written by Mathias Eliasson. In the end, I still believe this is a very excellent resource, especially if you want to use it for 9th edition Warhammer Fantasy battles. They got a lot of really cool new rules for a lot of the units in here. They've also added a bunch of new material for Ogre Kingdoms as well. In fact, they've actually made a couple of units actually quite compatible now for fighting. For example, those Yetis and that Yeti Rhyme Speaker, that is really cool. Plus the fact that your characters can now ride Rhinoxes and Mournfangs and chariots, that is really cool as well. We got some brand new monsters as well as some chariots that are in this army, so that's pretty neat too. Now granted, some of the units have been nerfed, like the Ogre charge rule has been nerfed significantly, and man-eaters have also been severely nerfed as well, but in the end though, with all the new additions though, it's not as devastating as you would think, because you can kind of like use other things instead in order to accomplish those same kind of goals, which is perfectly fine. So there you have it, guys. This is my overall impression of the Ogre Kingdom's Army Rulebook for 9th edition Warhammer Fantasy. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest, greatest hobby news related to our channel. That's good for this one, you guys. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out and stay classy.